What the fuck is going on in Canada? Seriously. What is up? What is going on? Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I am your host, Mark Hendrickson, and if you are brand new to this podcast, if you're brand new to this show, then what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development and how to get your life going in the right direction. If you don't feel like, you're getting closer to the person you want to be, or you feel like the person that you wish to be is so distant from the person that you are today, at least having the confidence knowing that you are getting 1% better, 1% closer to that dream version of yourself that you'd like to be, living the life that you'd like to live, and feeling good in general. That's just what having good mental health truly is, to some degree. And if you're not new to this show, then thank you very much for coming back, being a returning visitor, returning viewer, returning listener, however you consume this content. Whether you're brand new to this or not, you are the reason that I do what I do. And so normally I talk about, mental health and self-development on this podcast. I usually have conversations either interviewing somebody else, having conversations with other people. Sometimes I just sit here and I go on a rant about, maybe some of the things that are going on in my life, talk about the challenges, maybe some of the struggles I face, maybe some of the outcomes, some of the lessons I've learned. It's kind of a mishmash. It's a combination of those two things, basically. Me ranting by myself to my phone like this, or having an interview with somebody else. And, today I wanted to take this opportunity to really just ask one simple question. And I'm sure that maybe some of you, if you live in Canada as well, you've been wondering this little thought over the last couple of years. And I just want you to know that if you feel this way, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You're not going a little bit insane. You're not even part of a quote unquote small fringe minority like you might have been told that you are. But I just want you to consider some of these events over the last little while and really ask yourself the same question that I'm asking myself today. What the fuck is going on in Canada? Seriously. Over the last couple of years, I'm going to treat this as though it's like a time capsule, like a snapshot in time, because that kind of is what some of these videos and podcast episodes are going to be in the future. I find it funny to think about in 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, when the world is so different, people are going to listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos and think about, if they ever uncover the content that's coming out right now, they're going to think how crazy we actually are. It's kind of like when you watch old news reels or old footage from like the 60s and 70s, and when you hear the things that people are talking about, what they envision in the future, some of the inventions or breakthroughs that they're having in technology at the time, you're like, whoa, life was so different. Life was so crazy. The things that they were worried about, the rights that they were fighting for, the things that they had political discourse covering, it was so crazy. And I find it interesting to think about what people in 30 or 50 or 100 years are going to think about when they see the content of today. Because, nowadays it's so saturated. There's so many people that are making, opinionated pieces like this, obviously, and releasing it on the internet. And in, 30, 50, 100 years, how much information and what is going to be considered valid will people be consuming? as snapshots from today, from 2023 in mid-August or late August or beginning of September, whatever the fucking, I don't even know what day it is today, but it is Saturday. I'm sitting here, I'm chilling out, I'm drinking my coffee, and I thought I'd just make this little podcast episode for you guys, talk about some of the things going on in our country right now and just kind of get a little feedback on those things, as well as give you kind of a little lesson related, I guess, to self-development or mental health that I was kind of thinking about while I was on my run this morning. Excuse me. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the future holds. And it's going to be interesting as well to see when people look back at content from today, 50 years from now, or even 10 years from now, and what they will consider to be valid. What, from the mainstream media, the mainstream news, what people see on cable television or whatever they watch versus some of the content that is shown on, some of the biggest podcast platforms or social media platforms, who people consider to be valid sources of information, historical documentation of that snapshot in time, which we're living in right now. Some of the events that go on from today, maybe world wars, maybe global pandemics, maybe controversial topics that encapsulate the movement of human rights. What is going to be considered a valid source of historical documentation in 50 years when they look back at today of what the official story is of what we're going through right now. Something to think about. It's a weird, interesting topic. And so if you're watching this 50 years from now what's 50 years from 2023? 2073. If you're watching this in 50 years from now and you're listening back and you're like, what was the life like for Canadians in 2023? It's been an interesting few years for us to kind of look back at, obviously with lockdowns, mandates about, medical procedures and clothing you're supposed to wear on your face, to gun bans on, different firearms and people wanting to defund the police, people thinking that our policing situation is not the greatest and they want to take away money from that, and hopefully people can protect themselves, but they don't have any firearms to do so. So what do they resort to? Freezing the bank accounts for people that support protests, having people, having their funds locked because they supported people that were protesting, not even being a part of the protest, but they supported a movement that people were protesting for, so they get their bank accounts frozen. In the last couple years, we've had a lot of different events like this. We've had events like the medical assistance in dying, MAID, being expanded to include mental illness as a substantial reason why somebody could end their own life medically, assisted by the government. Paid for by taxpayers. We've had bill like C11 and all these other bills being passed right now that not only restrict the free speech and encourage self-censorship, but across all platforms now is, basically saying to social media companies that if they want to post news or anything related to news, then they have to pay a certain fee because they're taking business away from news broadcasters by giving people the news sources from those broadcasters, which doesn't really make sense to me. But because the social media sites don't want to pay those things, essentially, they're just not going to show the news. So now the person that made it so that they had to pay when they shared the news is now blaming them for not sharing the news because they don't want to pay, because they believe in some silly thing called like free speech or just being able to share thoughts that you see in the news. But anyways, then you blame them because they don't want to pay to share that information. So it's interesting times going on in Canada right now. But one of the most interesting things that has come up from this whole idea of censorship and free speech in the last couple years is actually in regards to professionals, working class people. And I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but last week, Jordan Peterson he made a podcast episode of him covering his court case right now with the Ontario College of Psychiatric whatever, basically the governing body of people that oversee like psychologists, I guess, or people in that field. And he is right now. I'm not extremely well versed in this, but I will kind of do it as much justice as I possibly can. Basically, being condemned, threatening to lose his practice, and essentially resulting in the necessity for a re-education for this doctor. And you might ask yourself, what kind of crazy, harmful things did this doctor do that he, has his social media now restricted to some degree. He has to self-censor a little bit. Otherwise, he's going to get a slap on the wrist. And not only that, but he has to actually undergo re-education on his own dime, to which the duration of time of his re-education is not specified. It's until basically the people that are re-educating him are satisfied with his level of re-education, which is dictated only by them. And so it's an interesting situation. Essentially, there's been a bunch of complaints, none of which are from his clients, to the college in Ontario. And these complaints have basically made it such that the college is concerned with his rhetoric that he speaks about and his antics on the internet, the way that he speaks. And so it's interesting to see this because it really does make you wonder. If professional class, working class people, doctors, lawyers, medical professionals, judges, or anything like that, anybody that, is educated, we educate these people so that they can make, an analysis of what's going on in the real world, and then prescribe the facilitation of healing that issue. Like, that's what we pay professionals for. You call a police officer, you want him to come in, analyze the situation, and either save somebody or fix something. Same thing with firemen, same thing with doctors, same thing with lawyers, same thing with judges. Basically, it's like you want them to come in and you pay them highly. Like, these are all, most of the time, highly paid positions. When we're talking about doctors, lawyers, judges, I'm sure like firefighters and cops, once they get up there, work their way up the ladder, they make a decent pay. I'm sure I could look that up, but for the sake of what I'm trying to talk about today, the idea is we educate these people in their field, and then we pay them highly for their opinions and for their skills, their expertise in whatever field they've just been educated in. And to get mad at them for saying something that they genuinely think about a topic, especially when it's related to their field, say someone's a doctor of psychology or neurochemistry or something like that, and they want to talk about mental health or any issues surrounding that, and then we condemn them and get mad at them when they say something that we don't really agree with. It's like, well, they're probably the expert. Like, why would we value somebody that has a high education, by paying them a lot or giving them a title of like a doctor, and then not respect what they say? Or, it goes further than not respecting what they say. It's wanting to stop them from saying it and punish them for thinking it or saying it publicly, because it could be quote unquote dangerous. When it's like they're the expert, like and even if you don't like Jordan Peterson or you don't like the content that he creates, it's like, what precedent is this setting such that professional class people can't say what they think, or act in a world, act in the world in a way that they think is the most appropriate based on their education and based on their experience and based on their life. And realistically, what the way that this even relates to self-development or mental illness or anything like that is, it's kind of like the topic that is so prevalent in mental health and self-development. And I'm sure you guys have heard about this if you looked into mental health or tried to read up on any of this stuff, or if you listen to podcasts like this or YouTube channels or anything like that. I'm sure you've heard of the term gaslighting, trying to convince somebody that something is not the way that it is or seems. I'm sure you guys have, heard different examples of gaslighting, or, I'm sure you've encountered it, or I'm sure that you knew somebody that's encountered it. Maybe in like a toxic relationship, a workplace, a relationship with a parent, a loved one, a friend, a family member, whatever. Like just the manipulation that goes on with gaslighting, trying to make you believe something when you know that it's not 100% true, or even say it to somebody else or try and convince them, and then kind of manipulating them that way. I'm going to look up the actual definition of gaslight real quick. Okay, so I've got, this is from the almighty Wikipedia. It says gaslighting historically referred to the extreme psychological manipulation to commit an individual to a psychiatric institution or cause mental illness with the intent to brainwash. In contemporary language, gaslighting is a colloquialism describing the subject experience of I don't like this. I've got a website here. How do you tell if somebody is gaslighting you? Shifting blame, denying wrongdoing, using compassionate words as weapons, rewriting history. That's going to be an interesting thing, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. Shifting blame. Oh, I said that already. Minimizing your feelings and thoughts, distracting you, discrediting you, lying to you. Again, I'm sure we're all familiar with gaslighting. And I'm sure as somebody that has a mental health and self-development podcast platform, I probably should know the definition of it, but I don't know it as well as I wish that I did. But it is what it is. But it's interesting to see the government, in my personal opinion, over the last few years, try and gaslight people and make them feel like certain things are the right thing to do when they might not be. Certain things are the wrong thing to do when they're probably the right thing to do. And now we're seeing it to the point where our doctors, our medical professionals, the people that we're supposed to trust with, our wellness, our well-being, the longevity of our life, healing our injuries and wounds, illnesses, sicknesses, etc. Now they basically are compelled to not be honest and forced to give a rhetoric that toe the line essentially, and give a rhetoric that the governing body agrees with, even though that might not be what statistics and data show are the best thing to do. And they're told that they do a good job when they do the dishonest thing, and they're punished when they do the honest thing. And where does that leave us as people? What does that say for us? And if you don't think that is going to spread, if you're somebody like me, you work for maybe a small company, you run your own thing, you do your own family business or anything like that, you think, oh, they'll never be able to touch me, they'll never be able to do anything to me. It's interesting to think about over the last couple of years how these things have impacted us. Now, I was pretty fortunate over the whole last couple of years with the lockdowns and the restrictions. I was pretty fortunate doing, small home renovations and restoration work. There was only a couple people, one family that asked me to leave their property because of certain restrictions that I wasn't really willing to comply with at the time. And other than that, I was still able to work every single day. But what happens if things get a little bit worse? What happens, if people don't want you in their homes or want you to, comply to certain things that you don't really agree with, and you don't think that that's okay. What how do we live in a world where we're gaslit like this? Or what is going on in Canada? And it really does, in a couple of years ago, it really did impact me in a negative way mentally. Because, like I said in the very beginning of the video, I felt isolated and I felt alone. I felt like I was the only one noticing things were a little bit weird and fucked up. And that can be a really weird feeling for you if you feel like you're the only one that thinks that way, the only one that views things the way that you view them, or struggles with the things that you struggle with, etc. It's this weird feeling that I think all of us know all too well, which is like nobody else really understands what I'm thinking, what I'm going through, the way I view this, why I view it, the way that I view it, etc. And I just want you to know that if you've been in Canada, you live in, not even in Canada, if you've been living in this world in the last couple of years and you feel like, what the fuck is going on? Then I want you to know that you're not the only one. Like, there's so many of us that are thinking this way and feeling this way. And it really is honestly such an inhuman way of living that we've been living in the last couple of years. And we are human beings. So when human beings are living in a non-human way, which, is pretty evident with the screens in our faces and the toxins in our food and the government and doctors telling us basically that natural things are bad for us and synthetic things are good for us, and we should avoid the sun, stay inside, not move much, don't wear and tear your body, sit around, watch Netflix, eat processed food, don't exercise too much, take all these drugs and medicines, trust them and give them your money and etc. These are not human ways to live. And so it's normal if you've been feeling like, what the fuck is going on? But you might be asking yourself, what's the solution? What do I do? Because I know that in the last few years, I've had to ask myself that question a lot of times. And truthfully, what I do think is that there is something funny going on, something fishy going on. And maybe you think that as well. And you might be asking yourself, what's the solution? And essentially, I would think or say to you this. I think that if you see something that you think is not right, do understand how it would impact you, understand what sort of negative consequences could come from this thing that you view in the world that's an issue, and do the opposite of that. Personally, and I kind of just delved into it a little bit, I think that, there's evil forces in this world that are basically trying to make us mentally ill, depressed, anxious, low self-esteem, low self-worth, poor, bickering with each other. I think that there's a dividing factor to, the manipulation that goes on in this world. I think that there's a factor of trying to get people to fight with each other and be uneasy with each other, poor, broke, dependent, depressed, confused, not faithful, not hopeful, with pessimistic views of this world. There's this apathy kind of going around of waiting for someone else to fix things. And I think that, when and if you feel like somebody is trying to enforce these things on you that have negativity, that carry these negative things, I guess, is to the retaliation to that is to do the opposite. Get smarter, get more fit, get more healthy, get more, dependent on your neighbors than you are dependent on the government. Build a community, spread love, spread joy, and spread smiles. The best way that you can rebel against the machine, rage against the machine, the best way that you can do that is to love one another, say what you think is true, have open and authentic conversations with people, say what you actually think and believe, and be open to hearing other people and listen to what they think and believe, and let that be an opportunity to mold you into a better person, whether it's fortifying your own internal initial ideas, or if it's presenting you a new perspective that you kind of think aligns better with what you view in the world. Get more fit, get more healthy, get more able-bodied, get more strong, get smarter, read more, and do things that you know inherently are good. And that's kind of the best advice that I could give to anybody that's not feeling good. Is there's a lot of things that you do throughout the day, and you know inherently what's good and what's bad, and you might doubt that in yourself, but it's like, if you were to view all the things that you did, would you be confident and comfortable telling a pastor at a church about it, or your mother about it, or your girlfriend about it, or your boyfriend about it, your father about it, your friends about it? Like, would you be proud of telling them those things? If you just think about eating, or activities that you could be partaking in, or habits that you have, behaviors that you have, substances you use, the way that you speak about other people, the way that you speak about yourself. Do you gossip, or do you lie, and etc.? We inherently know when things are good or bad because of the way that they make us feel internally. And I'm not talking about just good or bad, or happy or sad. I'm talking about, do they make you feel guilty? Do they make you feel proud? Do they make you feel like you want to maybe hide that behavior from somebody else? Or do they make you want to brag about that behavior? And is it something that makes you feel empowered? I think that the key to getting better is doing things that you know to be good. And everyone is going to have a different view on what good is. And that is the reason that we need things like the ability to make our own choices, or have our own opinions, or be able to speak about these things. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be free and happy, you got to basically live and let live. Let other people do what they think is best, and you do what you think is best. And I think that is the way, the direction that our country, our community, and the way that we need to go as individuals is just do your best, and respect other people doing their best, and understand that you're a flawed human, and so is everybody around you, and they're going to make mistakes, and just be compassionate and patient. And so in regards to individually, I think that's pretty blatant and clear. But in regards to our country, what does that mean? It means getting involved, not being apathetic. Not just voting, but individual. Like, it's not like politicians are going to make our lives better. You individually have to make your own life better, your own, household better, your own family and your group of friends, your own community better, and slowly make this trickle effect, the butterfly effect, I think it's called, of, improving yourself and lifting other people up along the way, and helping them get better, get stronger, get smarter, get, like I said, more reliant on your community than your government. And I think that we will see the positive changes that we're looking for in this world. And to have faith, and to have hope, and an optimistic view of what the world could be if you were to get better, if you were to contribute a little bit more, and what the world would look like if we all did that. And so, happy Monday. I hope you're doing well. This was just me talking to myself for almost half an hour, and hope that it kind of gave you a new thought, perspective, view on the world. And I'm starting to jumble all my words, so I'm going to sign off. I'll see you guys on Thursday. I'm very, very grateful for all of you. I appreciate you all. You are the reason that I do what I do. But other than that, I'll catch you on Thursday. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Share this with your friends. Rate it 5 stars. Leave a little review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. It helps boost me in the algorithm and get these messages out to people that need to hear it. I know it wasn't really a typical episode today, but share it if you like it. Let me know the feedback, what you guys think on our country, where it's at right now, and where it could be in the future. Take 30 seconds right now. Leave a little comment. Make a little review, and let me know what you think. Other than that, I will catch you guys on Thursday. Much love and peace out, you beautiful human beings. I love you all. Bye.